Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. I do not fear being deprived of all my possessions, living in hellish life, being arrested for poverty by the ropes of Varuna, or being punished by you, as much as I fear defamation. Purport. Although Bali Maharaj fully surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could not tolerate being defamed for cheating a Brahman brahmachari. Being quite alert in regard to his reputation, he thought deeply about how to prevent being defamed. The Lord therefore gave him the good counsel to prevent defamation by offering his head. A Vaishnava does not fear any punishment. Narayana para sarve na kutashtana vibhyati. Bhagavatam 6:17-28. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Vinam Sharakaya Chakshuram Militam Mina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Nena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Maham Daratishva Patantikam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchakalpatrubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So here we have a list of Bali Maharaj's concerns, which would be, for any of us, would be the main concerns. First of all, I do not fear being deprived of all my possessions. This is, practically speaking, especially in the so-called developed world, meaning externally developed but internally deprived, usually, spiritually deprived. Possessions is so important, so much so that people spend the majority of their lives in debt, paying for a house that they'll never enjoy, because you're always paying for it, so you're always in anxiety. And you never have time to enjoy it because you're gone all the time, paying for it. And just like, I remember one time I was visiting one family, they had a big dog. And so I came downstairs into the living room, and there was the dog sitting on like the big chair, like the head of the family's chair. And so I told him when he came home, you sit here for 3 or 4 hours, the dog sits here for 8 hours. Therefore, he's the real owner of the house. He gets the big chair most of the time. And out of humility, concedes it to you for a few hours. So we're so attached to these possessions, that thinking, and it's the whole concern about security. Of course, it's natural. The soul wants to be secure because of its eternal nature. But there's really, the possessions get taken away so easily. Everything gets taken away. Even in the Bible, they had that realization. That when you come with nothing and you leave with nothing. And therefore, everything you have, the best thing to do is to see it as belonging to Krishna. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Krishna possesses everything. He always did, always will. And we're borrowing for some time. Krishna is loaning us, giving us some possibility, giving us a body and giving us some things to take care of it so we can serve Him and get out of this possessiveness. Krishna says again and again in Bhagavad Gita, Nirmamo nirahankaraha. These two things we have to give up. I and mine. this idea that I am something, nirahangara, and nirmama, that this is mine. So, being deprived of all its possessions is a great concern for most people. But Bali Maharaj, he didn't think that way. Even when Vamanadev was, first made his petition, immediately Shukaracharya, he was advising him, don't listen to him. He's Vishnu. No, he's cheating you. But Shukaracharya, being a typical Brahmin, although this wasn't Kali Yuga, but just with the mentality of a materialistic Brahmin, which are very common in Kali Yuga, he wasn't thinking of Bali Maharaj, he was thinking of himself. No. If Bali Maharaj loses everything, then I'm out of a job. No. Otherwise, if the demigods take over everything, no, I'll be a servant of Brihaspati instead of a big Brahmin head of the demigods. No. So, such a spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that if a spiritual master accepts a Vishayi disciple, otherwise, if one accepts a disciple for material gain, for some material security, then the guru will go together with the disciple. They'll both go to hell together. No, they can stay together and keep their nice relationship. So, a spiritual master, real spiritual master, a real Brahmin, is only thinking of the benefit of others, not their own benefit. No. So, and then living a hellish life. Anyone who's intelligent understands that any condition of life in this material world, which is at the end of the purport here, Srila Prabhupada refers to a verse spoken by Lord Shiva to Parvati, who was totally astounded that I just cursed this king, Chitraketu, and he's smiling. He's happy. I just cursed him to become a demon, and he's happy. And then Lord Shiva said, yes, the devotees of the Lord, they are never distressed. The devotees of the Lord are always happy because they depend totally on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, in the next two lines, Lord Shiva says, Swarga Pavarge Narakesh Vapitulyartha Darshanam. That if they're in heaven or if they're in hell, a devotee is happy. And of course, the example is Narada Muni. Sometimes he preaches in heaven, sometimes he preaches in hell. And practically speaking, any devotee nowadays in Kali Yuga, sometimes you preach in heaven, sometimes you preach in hell. Just like Srila Prabhupada, when he was beginning the Mayapur project, when he just got the land, he had them built a little hut, which is still there. It's a memorial to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was sitting in the hut, and he was speaking to the devotees, and he said, this is Sattva Gun. This is the mode of goodness. And then he pointed over to the temple which was being built. He said, that is Rajagun. But we can use everything in Krishna's service. So, someone thinking in Rajagun will think, my possessions, I want to live a comfortable life. This becomes more important than pleasing Krishna. That I can worship Krishna as long as I have possessions. But if my possessions are taken away, if my income goes down, then there's no time to chant. I have to get my income up. I have to keep my possessions. I just discussed this the other day. I've seen it again and again. That when there's some difficulty in life, the first thing many people do, most people do, give up their chanting. No time for chanting now. I have to work hard. And you can justify it so many ways. I have my family. I have my future. Just like, I'm thinking just like King Yadu. That King Yadu was propositioned by his father, Yayati, that you should take over the kingdom. And he thought, no, because Krishna will appear in my dynasty, therefore I can negate. So we try to have some parallel justification that, no, because in the future, I'm going to surrender to Krishna. So let me create all the necessary conditions to surrender. No. But actually, here are the necessary conditions. No. Necessary conditions are that yasyaham anugrinami harishe taddanam shanai. That Krishna says, when I favor someone, when I see they're a little attached, or they're somehow or another, they have an impediment in the form of the material energy, then I take it away. And that's my mercy. So Bali Maharaj immediately recognized this. He said, I fear of being arrested for poverty by the ropes of Varuna. No. Otherwise, for stealing. No. Being arrested for poverty means for stealing. Because I stole from you. No. I was supposed to give you 3 steps, but I only gave you 2. Of course, now, Bali has already offered his head, but he's explaining himself. Or I don't even fear being punished by you, because, as the Bhagavatam says, that tatte nukampam susamikshemana bunchana evatmakritam vipakam. That a devotee thinks that however the mercy of Krishna descends, then I will be perfectly happy with that. No. I'll be perfectly happy. And, if it comes in the form of material good fortune, no. Of course, good fortune, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that good fortune is not always what we think it is. And he says that a devotee has to be very careful to not think that my material prosperity is an award given to me by the Lord. No. It's not an award. It's not like I did some austerities. I was a brahmachari for 5 years or 10 years or whatever. And I did my austerities now. See, Krishna, he's very nice. He's recognized my sacrifice and now he's given me some material prosperity. He said, this is just the opposite of what one should think. One should think that if Krishna has given me this prosperity, let me use it in his service. Because I have learned that through those years of brahmacharya, or sacrifice, or pujari, or whatever my more intense years of performing devotional service were, now I'm given the opportunity in a different situation to do the same thing. Because a devotee is always doing the same thing. Always surrendering more to Krishna. Always trying to use everything within their possibilities. Intellectual, physical, mental, whatever. Always using everything in Krishna's service. No. So he says, and if you punish me, what is the fear? Because being punished by you, as Srila Prabhupada said so many times, whether Krishna, whatever he does, no, even by killing the demons, he's benefiting them. No. Even this whole arrangement of the material world, which appears to be so unjust in most cases, especially in Kali Yuga. No. There's so many difficult circumstances. No. Devotees are answering all the time. People are questioning, why does God do this? Why does God do this? Why does God? No, this is one of the main questions that I get. You know, why is this happening? Why is a child born deformed? Why is this? Why is that? No. And basically, it's questioning why does Krishna do these things? Why does God do these things? But a devotee never thinks like that, because the whole arrangement of the material nature is for the benefit of a devotee, of everyone. Even though they may be cast into all kinds of miserable conditions, and it may seem that their whole life is just an injustice. Like we see some people, they're born in the worst neighborhood, they grow up surrounded by criminals and thieves, they're abused, in so many ways, and then they go through their whole life becoming worse and worse. And then they have some children, and they're even worse, because the environment. So it seems like just total injustice. Even the beginning of this chapter, Bali Maharaj, it says, "O king, although the Supreme Personality of Godhead was superficially seen to have acted mischievously toward Bali Maharaj," because, from an external point of view, so many things that Krishna does in the form of Krishna or Vishnu seem totally unjust. Throughout the Bhagavatam, it seems like there's more stories of Krishna putting his devotee into distress. And so from a material point of view, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, Arjuna, from a material point of view, Arjuna wants to be peaceful. So any normal person, so-called normal person in modern society would be on the side of Arjuna. He wants peace. And here's God wanting war. That's this typical warmonger God that we've heard about throughout our scriptures. Always wanting to destroy, devastate. Here's this nice Arjuna. He wants to stop the war and be peaceful. And it doesn't matter if the other people want to fight. He's just going to go off. And this is what we want. And here's Krishna. What's he doing? In so many circumstances. He puts the devotees seem to be in distress. Ambarish Maharaj, just for a little technical fasting detail, was attacked by Durvasa Muni, the biggest. Why didn't Krishna, of course Krishna did take care of Durvasa Muni. Why didn't he just stop him in the first place? Why did Ambarish Maharaj have to go through all these problems? We could just take practically every story from the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni meditated so long. And then the Lord appeared for him and said, "I'm sorry, this is the last time you'll ever see me." And he was young, I mean, he had his whole life ahead of him. "Sorry, this is your one and only darshan." And it seems like there's so many injustices. But Bali Maharaj doesn't see it that way. Because he understands you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can steal, and it's wonderful. You can cheat, and it's wonderful. Because whatever you do, it is for the benefit of not only the devotee, but every devotee and everyone. So therefore, whatever you do. So I don't fear this. But then he says, as much as I fear defamation. Now, Srila Prabhupada in the purport, of course, we can see this defamation in two ways. One way is the superficial understanding of the position of a Kshatriya. A Kshatriya can endure battle wounds, pain, difficulties, but he can't endure defamation. That, as Krishna tells Arjuna, that infamy is greater than death for a Kshatriya. So we can see it in that way. But really, that's not, if we look at the beginning of the verse, he's already defamed. The Lord has totally defamed him. He's poor. A Kshatriya to be poor and not have any possessions. A Kshatriya, he said, I have no position. I've been placed in hell. I've been arrested by the ropes of Varuna. I'm tied up. So where's the question of defamation? I mean, from an external point of view, other kings, what are the kings going to think? He was defeated by a Brahmin, by a dwarf. So what kind of Kshatriya pride is left? This little dwarf brahmachari came and defeated him. Outwitted him, outmaneuvered him. And so what is his position? So therefore, his fear is to be defamed by the devotees. And the Srila Prabhupada gives that indication. To be defamed for cheating a Brahman brahmachari. This is the greatest fear. If I don't have the mercy of those persons who actually know justice, who actually know how things should be conducted in this world, if I don't have their mercy, then that is my greatest fear of defamation. And this should be a devotee's concern, because Bali Maharaj is a devotee. He always was a devotee. And Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan said there's 3 types of devotees, of serious devotees. Sanishta devotees, Parinishta devotees, and Nirapshaka devotees. So, a Sanishta devotee is someone who's, as referred to in other places, Sakama devotees. They're devotees, but they're still attached to so many things. So they have to perform their duties out of necessity for purification. Parinishta devotees are devotees who have already achieved perfection, but are on the Madhyam platform. And therefore, they accept duties and difficulties also for the benefit of other persons. They give an example. And Nirakshepa devotees, they are Mahabhagavats. They don't need to perform any duties. No. They're simply absorbed in Krishna. And therefore, they have no need for duties. So Bali Maharaj, he's a pure devotee. So he's being made an example that of the nature of surrender. Then in the surrendering process, it's not just lip service. It's not just, it was suggested that he should give his head. That was the only place where the Lord could put his third step. And even then, even after that surrender or that admission that I can surrender this way, he was arrested, defamed, everything was taken away. So this is a very important lesson, because we are, sometimes we feel like I've surrendered. And then, then we think, what's Krishna doing now? I already surrendered. So everything's supposed to get better. Just like one girl wrote to Srila Prabhupada. And she said, Srila Prabhupada, I don't know what's happening. I surrendered 6 months ago and I'm still getting sick. I was thinking that, surrender to Krishna, everything just become materially perfect. And so sometimes we think like that. I've been performing devotional service for so many years, there's still so many problems in my life. But you can ask any older devotee who, doesn't matter how many years they've been around, there's always difficulties. Always difficulties. And the more we surrender, the more that Krishna wants to show you. Now you want to surrender? Let me show you what surrender is. Let me show you the full spectrum of surrender. Surrender is not just, what I perceive it to be. Surrender is what Krishna perceives it to be. And surrender means, just like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defined, surrender has 6 steps or 6 aspects to surrender. That, first of all, everything, anukulyasya sankalpam, that whatever is favorable to Krishna, whatever Krishna wants, then that is what I'll do, even if I don't like it. And patikulyasya varjanam. And whatever I like, if Krishna doesn't like it, I will give it up. Even if I like it very much. If Krishna, it's not favorable for serving Krishna. If Krishna doesn't like it, I will give it up. Whether I like it or not, that's not even a factor. And then, rakshashiti vishvaso. I know that Krishna is my only protector. He's my only protector. He's my only shelter. I'm not looking for any, otherwise, in other words, that means that I don't try to take shelter of the demigods. Because I know that Krishna is my only shelter. Now, of course, some people have argued, I've heard this argument, that even in the time of Lord Chaitanya, his mother, they would pray to this goddess or that goddess, and, even up to the time of Lord Chaitanya. And Rupa Goswami says that we can, worship Ganesh, so what's the problem? Here's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mother, Shachi Devi. Here's Rupa Goswami, referring to the demigods, so what's the problem? But they were speaking about the whole desire was simply to please Krishna. Now we may say, yeah, well, I worship a few demigods, but my only desire is to please Krishna. But Srila Prabhupada emphasizes, and all of our acharyas, especially recent acharyas, emphasize no worship of the demigods. And Krishna says, Mayaiva vihitan hitan. That whatever they can give you, I can give you directly. So I was making this point in these days, why have a middleman? Any business person will immediately cut out the middleman. Otherwise, why do you need it? If Krishna is offering direct, you get the direct benefit. Why do I need a demigod to take care of it? We respect the demigod. Lord Chaitanya danced before Lord Shiva for more than 24 hours when he saw the deity of Lord Shiva, worshipping him as a devotee. Otherwise, respecting him as a devotee, he danced in ecstasy. Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. We should respect the demigods. Then Shishiti Vishvasyo Gopchitte Varanam Tata, that and Krishna is my supreme protector and my only shelter. Supreme protector and only shelter. And then Atmanikshepa. Therefore, I should surrender everything to him. Karpanye. And not do it out of, I guess I have to surrender everything. That's what the Shastra says, that's what Krishna says. No, karpanye. With great humility, with a great desire. Not that, I will be fully surrendered because otherwise I'm going to have problems. That's not the proper attitude. The proper attitude should be there. Because ultimately, does Krishna need everything we have? No. This is one of the arguments of materialists, that, people are making beautiful, huge golden altars and offering all this opulence in churches and temples and mosques. And there's so many poor people. So, does God need these things? No. And that's their argument. So, does Krishna need it? No, he doesn't. Therefore, the main part of the surrendering process is our attitude. What is our attitude toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead? What do we want to offer him? Do we want to offer him, just like Bali Maharaj? He gave up everything, but the Lord wasn't satisfied, because this was all external. Even though it's very difficult to give up things. Certainly that can, as Srila Prabhupada said, for one who is very attached to the material things, it can even cause death. Prabhupada gave the example of one lawyer in the time of Gandhi's movement. So Subhash Chandra Bose, he would go to different big people and he would tell them that they shouldn't serve the British government anymore, that they should serve the Gandhi movement. And he told this one lawyer that either you do that or there may be problems. So everybody knew who he was, and you don't mess around with Subhash Chandra Bose. If you like your lifestyle. So he said, instead of getting whatever it was he got, I can't remember the amount, probably it's like 20,000 rupees, he got only 5,000 rupees. And he died of anxiety. He was so used to having all this wealth. Because, and I've seen this again and again, when people have nothing and then they acquire something, it's difficult to give it up. Even more difficult than those who have something and lose it. Because like going back to that previous position is very difficult. You become so attached. So the Lord is not satisfied that you just give up external things or that you do these. He's satisfied in the beginning, but ultimately He wants the devotee to be progressive. Otherwise, for somebody who just comes to Krishna consciousness, they may hear that we should offer everything, we eat. So they may just say, they don't know how to do it. They say, oh Lord, please take it. Or, oh Krishna, please accept this. And Krishna will accept it. But once you take initiation and you learn the process of offering, and not only do you go through the process, but you learn the proper mood of offering the food to Krishna. Offer the bhoga. Then Krishna will accept it. Not if there's negligence, or not if there's the desire to keep it for myself, just pass it through Krishna. Like a, water purifier, ozone process or something. I just pass it through Krishna, and now it gets purified, now I can enjoy. The more we advance, the more that Krishna expects that we just want to please Him. And so this is what Bali Maharaj has been subjected to. And therefore he's admitting it. And throughout these verses, these upcoming verses, he will emphasize everything that he's saying here. This is like the introduction, the condensed form. He began his prayer in the previous verse, and he goes on for some verses, just giving up everything. And then he explains later on, what is this defamation? That I don't want to, I don't want to earn the disfavor of the servants of the Supreme Personality of God. So, throughout the whole Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita and the pastimes of Krishna and the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see so many different types of surrender. Krishna himself said that this surrender, at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadhamam Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, that this process of surrender is his, after he explains transcendental knowledge, this is what he expects. Otherwise, by coming here and hearing the Bhagavatam, or by our study of the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, this is the conclusion we should come to. And when he says Sarvadhamam Parityajya, he doesn't mean to just give up the results of the activities. He means to give up the attachment to the activities. Sometimes people interpret that okay, well, I'll use everything in Krishna's service, and that's good. That's a good realization. Otherwise, because we have to work, we have families, so we have to continue to function in this world. But not only do you have to give up the attachment to it. That's more important than giving up the results. Is give up the attachment to these activities and understand that it is a function. And the real function is to please Krishna. And Sarva Papebhyo means that Krishna will save you from the results of giving up Dharma. Because especially in India, you talk about giving up Dharma, people just give all these arguments. No, but I have this Dharma, I have that Dharma, and it's the Vedas say I have to do this. Anyone who's from India can, if you try to preach in India, that's the first argument. I can't give this up, I can't. So Krishna says it's not the external activity that I want you to give up. It's the attachment to it, and thinking that if I don't do this, there will be some sin. There will be some sinful result. No. There will be no sinful result. Because once we surrender to Krishna, there is no, Krishna takes away all the results of those activities. Devarshi bhutat narinam pitrinam. Nakingaro rayam rini charajan. Savatmanava ya sharanam sharanyam gato mukundam parihritya kartum. That it's stated that all the obligations that we have to the great sages, to the demigods, to family members, to friends, to society in general, if one actually becomes kinkara, a real kinkara before Krishna, then your debts, your kinkara, your debts will be eliminated. Of course, we don't use that as an excuse. Let me surrender to Krishna because I have so many debts with the bank, and I owe this and I owe that, and therefore this verse says that I can get out of all that. No, doesn't mean that. It means that if you really surrender to Krishna, then Krishna will take care of all these things. No, not that, okay, Krishna says this and I have these problems, so let me solve the problems, and then, as Srila Prabhupada says in the third verse it always impacted me from the very time I read it, in the purport of the third verse of the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada says, so many people have come to this Krishna consciousness movement, Chatra Vidha Bhajante Mam, with one of the four reasons, external reasons for surrendering to Krishna: distress, generally distress, and necessity. And then Prabhupada says, as soon as they satisfy that need, then they leave. Prabhupada said, we've seen this. As soon as they satisfy this need, they're gone. They leave. So, the surrendering process means that we accept Krishna and we accept the conditions that Krishna gives us. Just like when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began his Sankirtan movement within the house of Srivas Thakur, otherwise intensifying the devotion of the devotees and showing all of us that to actually go out and preach and do Sankirtan, first you have to be qualified. You can't just preach with no qualification. You are the representative of the holy name. And therefore, he qualified his devotees by giving them ecstasy before they could go out and distribute the holy name. So, there were a few people that were very upset that they couldn't go in. They wanted to go in and see the Lord. One particular brahmachari, he said, I want to see the Lord dance. I want this. Now, his desire was very good, but the Lord had already put conditions that just my devotees, those devotees who are authorized by me. As Srila Prabhupada said, if the spiritual master asks for water, don't bring milk. So, Srivas, this brahmachari, was so austere and so perfect in the execution of his brahminical duties. And he said to Srivas, I don't even take any grains. In Bengal, that's like a miracle. If you don't take grains in Bengal, that's like a really big thing. And so, anywhere in India, but especially Bengal. And so, this brahmachari insisted, and every day he would come, and so Srivas Thakur said, he's sinless. What will be the harm? But he said, because the Lord said, I can't bring anybody in, I'll have to put you in a hidden place. So he brought him in, and then the Lord started dancing, and then he stopped, and he said, someone is here who shouldn't be here. And Srivas immediately said, my Lord, there is no one here who is sinful in any way. So, of course, that's the indirect way of saying, that yes, I brought somebody in. And so he said, but there is one brahmachari who actually lives only by drinking milk. And Lord Chaitanya immediately said, throw him out. Throw him out. Does anyone achieve me by drinking milk? No. Is anyone? Or by doing austerities? Because Lord Chaitanya knew that it wasn't just drinking milk. He was austere. He was, learned. And he said, what were the austerities of the monkeys who helped me defeat Ravana? What were their austerities? What was the knowledge of the gopis? What was their great learning that allowed them to give their lives and their hearts? And, what was the sacrifice of Gajendra, who was enjoying in the gardens, the heavenly gardens. What was his qualification? He said, on the other hand, a perfectly qualified sannyasi who does all kinds of penances, austerities, chants mantras, if he is not interested in my service, I don't accept him. No. Even the greatest qualified Vedic scholar, no. If they don't serve me with love and devotion, then they will never get my favor. So, at that time, the devotees were escorting the brahmachari out. You know, he was like on his way out the door. And he was thinking, oh, now my life is perfect. No, my life is perfect. I saw the Lord dance, even if it was just for a moment. And even if I was chastised, and even if I never see it again, I consider myself the most fortunate person in the three worlds. And then Lord Chaitanya says, bring him back. No. Now he has surrendered. No. So this is the act of surrender. The act of surrender is not, some external thing. Like sometimes we see people come in and before the deities, they'll do all kinds of rituals of surrender. But the mood is not surrender. And we can feel it. Even sometimes we see someone come in and they do all kinds of gestures, and all kinds of little movements of the hands and everything before the deities. But the motive is not just to surrender to Krishna. No. And so Lord Chaitanya brought him in and he said, now you have understood. And he put his lotus feet on his head, on this brahmachari's head. And immediately all the devotees offered obeisances to the brahmachari. So this is also another aspect of surrender, that a devotee surrenders to the Vaishnava. And how do they recognize the Vaishnava? When they receive the favor of the Lord. Otherwise, when someone becomes advanced in devotional service, when someone gets the opportunity to do more service for Krishna, we celebrate. If we're free from envy. Of course, if we have envy, we'll think, how can this person be more advanced than me? How can this person be more qualified than me? And we do just the opposite of what we should do. So Lord Chaitanya showed by this simple, very simple pastime that the nature of surrender is you come and surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then the devotees surrender to the good fortune of the Vaishnavas. And they think that this person is worshipable because they've been accepted by Krishna. And there's so many examples of surrendering. And of course, Gajendra was another one, which was here in this particular canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What was his great act of sacrifice? What did he do? Or Ajamil, what did it, Ajamil was a rascal. But because he had performed some devotional service, just like there was one sannyasi, I'll close with this story. There was one sannyasi who had some difficulties and left. And his difficulties were so great that he just didn't want to, he felt in his heart great appreciation for Srila Prabhupada but he just felt like he couldn't go on. So then he had some difficulty. Then he finally decided, well, I should get married. So he got married. And he never told his wife one thing about Krishna. He never showed her one book. Because he just felt embarrassed. That I've gone so far away from devotional service. And then he got cancer and he left his body. And a little while later, his wife found a temple, the nearest temple, and came to the temple. And she asked, who is Prabhupada? And devotees, Prabhupada, just probably explained to her a little bit about Prabhupada. She was, oh, okay. And so they asked, well, how do you know about Prabhupada? Did you get a book? Or, they thought, well, if she would have gotten a book, she would have found out who Prabhupada is, more or less. She said, no, actually my husband, we were together for a few years, and then he got cancer, and he was on his deathbed. And just before he died, the doctor said, like he's got just a few minutes left. All the symptoms were there. He's going to leave his body. And then all of a sudden, he sat up and he said, Prabhupada, I see Prabhupada. And poof, then he left his body. So, Gajendra, he was previously a pious king. Then Ajamil, he was previously a Brahmin who would perform devotional service. So because of that, they were allowed to surrender. They were permitted to surrender. But we shouldn't follow the Ajamil program or the Gajendra program. That's not the recommended process. Just like Srila Prabhupada said, don't count on getting an honorary degree from the university. Think, well, why go, 4 years, 5 years, 8 years? I'll just go to the internet and learn it all in my spare time, and then, I'll just walk into the university and they'll say, oh, you know all this anyway. Here's your degree. That may happen. We may be in a Jamil case, but better we try to follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada and the example here that when the conditions of life indicate to us that we should, of course, the internal condition is always telling us we should surrender more. But when those situations in life come about that indicate surrender, then we should do it. We should accept them and try to understand what Krishna is telling us. And the only thing we should fear is that we lose the mercy of the Vaishnavas. We shouldn't fear losing my bank account or losing this or losing that. Because, whatever you do, your bank account or your possessions will last as long as they're supposed to last. And then it will be gone. Srila Prabhupada made this point again and again. You can't, you can make some effort, of course. Not that we just sit back as fatalists and whatever happens, happens. But if we make some endeavor, just like Srila Prabhupada, his business was failing, he made some endeavor to recover it and it wouldn't happen, and therefore he understood it as the mercy of the Lord. Parikshit Maharaj, after he garlanded Samikya Muni, then he said, why did I do that? I would have never done that. I'm incapable of doing that. Therefore it must be the mercy of the Lord. So, when we make our best effort to try to preserve our situation in this world within Krishna consciousness, and we find that still the circumstances are going in another direction, we should, just like Bali Maharaj here, we should try to see how the Lord is directing us and follow his indication rather than fighting against him and thinking, why did Krishna do that? Why is he doing that to me? Because when you say that, you're actually glorifying yourself. You're not glorifying Krishna. Because when I say that, the other side of that coin is, I'm such a nice devotee. I've done so much for Krishna. Otherwise, why is he doing that to me? Why shouldn't he do it to me? I've been in this material world trying to enjoy it life after life. So therefore, the fact that I even know about Krishna, I should feel so grateful. Not that why is Krishna doing this to me? So Bali Maharaj is giving us in these verses that lesson. So I'll stop here. Are there any comments or any questions?